know some of you in the room. I've met quite a few of you last night as well, which was quite fun. So my name is Nathan McDowell, also known as NATTYMAC. I've been shooting for probably about 22 years. And in that time, I photographed campaigns all over the world for global fashion brands, photographed numerous celebrities and sports stars. Been very fortunate in what I've been able to achieve in that time. As you can probably see, I like to shoot bold, colourful, vibrant imagery. And then when AI first came on the scene, it really resonated with how I visualize and how I shoot things. So it was straight away, I was interested. I was kind of very intrigued. But I will say, with all game-changing technology, there's always a fear that it'll replace your jobs and we'll be bowing down to our robot overlords. But I like to look at it a bit differently. I like to kind of see, we've got this tech, how can we be smart with it, and how can we speed up some of our processes, augment our workflows, and just expedite things out a little quicker. So I'm going to tell you today how I personally use that to expedite my workflow. So I started playing around with AI there's a little pun there, by the way, if anyone knows. So I started playing around with AI sort of early 2022. I tried out DALL-E, Stable Diffusion, if anyone's familiar with those. And then I found a resonance with Midjourney and really kind of stuck with that, really leaned into it. At that time, I was studio manager for a band called Boohoo, and we were looking at AI solutions within the studio, but nothing really fit the business model for us at that time. But because I was looking so far into it, I was creating a hell of a lot of output, and I needed to put it somewhere because I was creating all this imagery. So I started a secondary Instagram account called NATTYMAC, and I was just really playing around at that time. I was keen to understand how the machine would interpret the campaigns that I'd already created with photography, and then see how it would read that and what I could get from that as an understanding with it. I played with a lot of crazy ideas that I'd no way be able to finance myself off my own back, and just to see the results. And I also found a really nice community of early adopters and creators in that space. It was quite an exciting time to be a part of it, and it was almost revolutionary, this tech. So here's some of my AI work. I always try to think about campaigns that I'd like to shoot, and I've created quite a lot of output, as you can probably see, ranging from editorial style stuff to more documentary style, more atmospheric stuff, streetwear focused things. I even played around with horses and painting horses for some reason. I quite like it though, it's fine. But the possibilities are endless. What you put into it, you can get out. So, augmenting workflows. How do I use this in my process? This could be simple things like fleshing out a brief. It could be making pose boards to work with models on set. We can use it for social media moments. Social media is such a hungry beast, and we need to feed it. And we can help even things on the back end, like speeding up post-production. Oh yeah, and then with things like in-painting and out-painting, which are new kind of tech on the market that are sort of built in certain platforms that I'll go into shortly. So for the sake of this presentation, I made up a brief that doesn't exist. I thought I might as well have some fun with it. What's the craziest kind of thing that I could come up with? What are two brands that wouldn't align, that wouldn't sit well together? I've got this tech here at my fingertips. Why not just really test it and see what we could do? So I give you Thrasher versus Wedgwood. The internet-breaking brand collab you didn't know you needed in your life was my tagline for it, which I thought, but yeah, something really action-y and then something very breakable. It's two quite contrasting ideas. So with Thrasher, you've got an edgy, loud, audacious, young skate brand, and then with company like Wedgwood. It's a fine art pottery institution. So how do these two things combine? This coincidentally comes from my love of skating, and also the fact that I really like Antiques Roadshow. So this is where this idea came from. But yeah, so let's have a look at what we can kind of do with this tech, with this kind of sort of brief in hand. So the main tool I'll be using is Midjourney again. Personally, I think at the moment it's yielding the best results out there from that platform. That's not to say things like Stable Diffusion, DALL-E aren't coming up. Like Stable's coming really close at the moment, doing really interesting things. But for me, in terms of final output from that imagery, I think Midjourney gives you something that feels a lot more solid. The machine, if anyone's not familiar with it, it works with text prompts or image prompts, or you can combine both, and you can start to create around that. So in this instance, you kind of have to be the chef in it. As you can see, I've made myself into a chef. I probably had too much fun with this project, but he looks a bit knackered as well, to be honest. I think he's overworked. But yeah, so you're the chef. It's your vision. The ingredients, they're your ideas, and AI is your kitchen. But in order to produce something relevant, you need your ingredients to be top quality, and you need your chef to be on point. Because if your chef's vision is poor, the ingredients have gone off, it's not going to be a nice meal to eat. So how do we then structure our prompts? So we like to create a recipe. So for this recipe, I wanted a tattooed rapper. I wanted him to be wearing yellow. I wanted it to be photorealistic in quality. A portrait shot. I wanted the lighting to be edgy, so I went with dramatic, and I wanted it on a black background. Also, just for the sake of fitting it into this, I wanted it to be a landscape, so an aspect ratio of 16:9. It doesn't always go correctly, though. So in this, it's pretty much the same prompt. The only thing that we changed was we wanted the rapper to have arm tattoos in particular. But I left the words portrait shot in. Didn't quite go to plan. So we have to be quite discerning about the choices that we're making. So you can see there, with one simple change, it's it's a lot of trial and error at the start, and not all results are going to be the one. But if you've got a recipe that is working, you can start really to then work into that. So process. So in terms of process, it's good to have an idea of what you want to end up with. If we've got this in mind, we can start to problem solve before we even sit down with the tech and start to work through it. So let's get some keywords. So for Thrasher, things like skate, kickflip, action, vert ramp, it's endless. And then Wedgwood, pottery, ceramics, bone china, dishware. So these are all parts of your ingredients that you can start to work with. At this stage, we can also look at working with imagery. So this, I rolled one of my own images into the machine, and I tried to keep it quite simple, just to not overcomplicate things. And this way, we can start to see how the machine thinks about imagery and how it speaks about imagery. And then we can learn a lot from this and start to build it into these processes that we're going to look at. And also, if you're stuck, it's a great starting place. If you've got an image that you think, that'd fit great in my campaign, how can I create something like that? How will the machine describe something like that? You can use the describe function within the machine, and it'll spit out some prompts towards you. I mean, they're not all gold, but there's something in there. There's learnings from each of them. But yeah, I'd say try and keep it simple at the start and go from there. So these are the direct results from that. So as you can see, the first one, it's kind of giving where we were going with it, but by the time it gets to sort of 3 and 4, we're a little bit away from that. But we can learn from the attempts and we can start to diagnose the prompts that the machines give us back and go, well, I'll take that, and I'll take that, and I'll put them together, and we'll see what we kind of come up with, and we start to create and work into it like that, on that level. So here's a really quick overview of the prompting process in action. Oh, it's a bit janky. Sped up a little bit. I'm not that fast at typing. But yeah, and then, as you can see, I built into the prompt a little heavier than in the previous example. Now, not all your results are going to work out right. Some of them are going to be quite a bad fit, or just a bit strange. You might have too many hands, too many heads, all these things that people who've tried the platform have probably come up against. But with a bit of sort of chef knowledge, let's call it, you can start to discern what's working, what's not working, and build back into it. And really kind of just start to create something that's going to align with that initial concept that you wanted to pitch. Perseverance is key, I think, with it. And just, again, it is a lot of trial and error. It's very new tech, but it's getting better. It's very much getting better. And we can also re-roll the stuff that we've already created in Midjourney back into Midjourney and further confuse things, if you want. So alongside the main suite of campaign imagery, I wanted to create a cohesive sort of lookbook feel, more editorial, showcase of clothes. So this is some of the, I mean, I played around with this for so long, but this is some of the stuff that kind of came back out of the machine. But yeah, now it's over to you as chefs to kind of create that vision. We'll say having all the ingredients and a swanky kitchen does not an award-winning risotto make. But yeah, so when we've got these results, we can start to refine. So let's look at how we do that. Is anyone familiar with Firefly at all? See some heads nodding. So Firefly, for those who don't know, it's Adobe's online AI. It has tools in it like Generative Fill and some really cool like 3D text tools. Big suite of stuff. The stuff that I'm going to focus on is the Generative Fill and the in-painting and out-painting. It's also built directly into Photoshop, which is fantastic for those of you who know that kind of user interface. But yeah, so here's a quick look at that tool in action. So this floor was just giving odd, just wasn't correct when it came out of the machine. And those of you who've done kind of comp work like this in the past might see that just by isolating it, calling it tarmac, prompting simply tarmac, you can get something like that straight out of it. You don't have to scour through stock websites for hours on end finding the perfect match of tarmac to go into that picture. It's already quite intuitive and it feeds off it. And that's the before and after. And that was relatively quick to kind of do. So things like that are quite game-changing. So the final results to go into the deck. As you can see, it's quite cohesive, and we've managed to build out different textures, different poses, sort of more kind of wide stuff, more portrait stuff, more action stuff. We've also been able to keep it quite cohesive throughout. And then you can feed this onto your set builders, your stylists, your art directors, and really kind of brief that in of what you want to create from that platform. So we looked at in-painting. These are some real-world examples now of stuff in action where I've used it in the last sort of month or so. We looked at in-painting, so this is its teammate out-painting. So this was shot on medium format, so it's got a natural aspect ratio of 5:4 and portrait, but we needed it for a web banner. Now, it might not seem that impressive, but it was quite nuanced, and Photoshop handled it like a boss. It just absolutely went, yeah, no problem, I've got you. Here's the rest of the car seat. And it was great. And what could have been an hour or two's worth of retouch was solved within 5 minutes, if that. Here's a more tricky example. Oh. So as you can see, this one, it was the same problem. This was shot earlier on in the year in Portugal, and it didn't quite go to plan on the first instance. But with a bit of prompting and a bit of perseverance, we were able to get something that was much more usable. Again, quite a quick fix. So yeah, some social moments, how we've kind of used it to be quite reactive in the past. So for the brand Sanucci, they were doing a pop-up shop. They have no bricks and mortar, they're an online business, and they wanted to do a little pop-up shop and tease it. So I sat with the social manager, and he told me what he wanted to create, and within sort of 10 minutes we'd mock something up. But as you can see, it's absolute nonsense on the above the sign. And the shop felt really small, and the street didn't feel right. So we changed the sky, the logo, the floor, and the interior of the shop all within a matter of minutes. And it was, super quick workflow. Again, with the one on the right, for those of you who can see it, the creative lead wanted some assets to sit along the Black Friday campaign, and she wanted the company logo on a load of plain seats going back. And knocked that up in a matter of minutes. And then we briefed that into a graphic designer who refined it. So yeah, it's quite very useful tech. So this is a brief that I shot for my own company, Two Shades, with the art director who's just sat there. And we were doing a promo shoot for it. So we sat down with the brew, and we knew we wanted some extra depth to feed to the models. So we sat down with a cup of tea, and we sat down with Midjourney, and we pulled out a load of pose references for that. Just stuff that we could then feed to the model on set. Literally printed it out, said, do that crazy thing with your arm. And she did. And it worked quite nicely, and these are the kind of results that we got off the back of it. So where to next? AI is growing fast, and it's improving constantly. And it feels like there's new tools on the market each week. We've got big players like Amazon, Google, Facebook, all coming out with their own embedded generative AI on their platforms. There's even things like text-to-video with the likes of DeepBrain, Synthesia, Hour One, and even text-to-3D with tools like Luma, which is built into the Discord server again. With a lot of them, I don't think the output is quite there, but it's growing, the amount is growing. And I think AI is going to play a bigger and bigger role in our day-to-day in the coming months and years. And it's inescapable, like it or not, it's here to stay. So let's embrace it, I'd say. That's it from me. I'd like to say thank you for your time this morning. Hope you found it either useful or entertaining, or hopefully both. And then I believe I am opening up the floor to some questions.
Good job.
All good.
You did that very well. Great. And I think one of your final words, Nathan, it's here to stay. And we better embrace it, right?
I think so, yeah. I think it's, I think it's really useful in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And especially with stuff like that, it just speeds up a lot of things.
Yeah.
Especially because not all your money people are going to be visual people. So if you sit down and go, I want to do Thrasher meets Wedgwood, and they go, what? You go, it'll look like this, and they go, oh yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's good.
Exactly. Let's move on to questions. And please remember the Slido thing here, slido.com at 1838038. Good. We have the first question for you here. Nathan. Have you had any Gen AI-based projects where no matter what you did, the final result just wasn't there? Where you couldn't get what you needed, and if so, why?
Absolutely, yeah. Sanucci launched a range of watches recently. And my initial idea was I wanted to create AI models and sort of in-paint the watches into that scene and make it look really cool and really expensive. But I just couldn't get it to sit right. I couldn't get it to sort of get the right feel that I was going for. And I think it was one of them things where it became easier to actually shoot it in real life than do it in AI. Yeah. So it wasn't kind of saving time in the way I'd wanted it to. But yeah.
Yeah. I think actually one of the things, we're playing around with some of these tools as well, and I think one of the things that we found to be difficult is exactly when you introduce actual products in it, because you do not want the AI tool to change that product.
No.
Dimensions or whatever, right?
No.
Because all of a sudden you're
Well,
right?
it needs to be true to the product, doesn't it? Otherwise, you're going to get results.
Exactly.
Like, this watch looks nothing like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
that's one of the
It's one of
difficulties
the
of it.
challenges. I know there's things like custom models and things, but I believe that needs just a bit more infrastructure behind it rather than one man with Mid-Journey and a lot of time.
Yeah, true, agree. Good. Let's move on to the next one. Has anyone asked to use the AI images in a campaign rather than the brief?
Not yet, but I do anticipate that happening at some point. Not just yet, though.
Not yet, but you see that coming?
I can see it on the horizon, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, okay.
I know the chap from Maison Meta who spoke at the one in New York.
Yeah,
he was saying
Maison Meta, yeah.
Yeah, he did a lot of kind of actual full campaigns with AI, which is quite impressive.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think there's definite stuff for it.
Oh, it's coming?
Yeah, it's coming.
Yeah, especially on that very high-level editorial side.
Yeah, for sure.
When creating the AI photos, is there a way to create specific clothing items that are replicates of real-life item? Here we're almost down to the product discussion again.
Yeah, I think weirdly yes, but it depends how close you need it to be. Like I've definitely rolled stuff out of Mid-Journey, and I'm like, he's wearing Adidas trainers. So there's some things that happen by accident, but you can get it close. But again, I think it's just about how close it needs to be. But I think custom models and things do kind of solve a lot of that problem, but not entirely.
Good. Let's move on to the next one here. Would there be situations where you would not use AI or generative AI?
Yeah, I think it'd just go on like a case-by-case scenario. It depends what we're kind of briefing for. If it's something that's not that wild or out there, if it's like, we want to shoot it in a studio on a grey colour armour with this kind of lighting, then it's not really needed. But for something a bit more outlandish and conceptualising, then it does help to sell that to the kind of team at large and then get the idea over the line.
Yeah, good. And then I'll take the top one here again, because what is your feeling of where the technology is today? And so can any AI tools generate hyper-resolution and hyper-detailed output plus immersive spheric photos?
So yeah, this is growing. This is growing quite quickly. So when I started writing this sort of presentation thing, I was going to talk about using tools like Topaz for kind of upscaling the imagery. That became quite redundant because Mid-Journey then built that scaling within Mid-Journey. So now you can scale up to, I think it's like 4,000 pixels wide. So I have a thing. In terms of the 3D aspects, I'm not entirely sure. That's not my sort of forte with that thing.
Yeah. I think I think there's a lot of people in the room that are saying, well, maybe we need to spend some more time playing around with these tools. So if we take the second one from the top there, what was the investment to get your team to become top chefs?
So my team is me. So
so how did you do it?
I was a lot of time. It was just nerding out, really. I found it fascinating. And I was like, can I make it do that? And I'd be in the pub like with my Mid-Journey on my phone going, look, it can do this. Yeah. Like, tell me something it can do. Like, Yeah. So yeah, it was just me just being a bit nerdy about it.
So a bit nerdy, curious, and persistent.
Yeah, I think like any kind of creative pursuit, you've got to be really into it and really nerdy about it to become quite good at it. So
good.
Yeah.
Then the next one here, because that's something we're talking to a lot of our customers about. What are your thoughts on using AI in e-com photography? Putting product shot in studio into a live scene and doing it at scale, right? Because that's sometimes a bit different.
Yeah, I think this is because this is what I was sort of alluding to. So when I was at Boohoo as a studio manager, we did kind of look at some things like that. At the time, I don't think the tech was quite there, but I think it is coming. I think it will be an eventuality. Yeah. But it depends. I think with items, with physical items, it might not be the same. But with clothing, it'd be interesting to see if people want to see it on a person that they can relate to rather than something that's generated. But I think only time's going to tell that. And I think as the technology progresses, that'll get better and more accurate, but it'll be sort of reflected on your sales and also your returns.
Yeah.
I think that'll be the kind of consideration around it.
Yeah. And then I do imagine, and we've seen that already, right? In a couple of cases with CGI-generated models. Then when you start moving into that space, all of a sudden you actually have the moral and ethical things to consider as well.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. But I believe the next talk will cover a bit of that, maybe. I don't know.
Maybe, yeah. Good. So then, AI and video. What's your thoughts on that, Nathan, versus the stills that you're showing the display?
In terms of when, it's already here. It's already very much here. Sort of Synthesia and Deep Brain are kind of doing quite interesting things with it. Like I said, I don't think the output quality is anywhere near where it needs to be just yet.
No.
But it's crazy how quickly it's improving.
Yeah.
And there is big communities behind it and big people backing it. So yeah, I think it's coming. It's on the horizon.
It's coming. And it's fast.
Yeah.
Last questions. If we actually want to implement this in our workflows, how do we train our creatives to use these new tools, to adapt them, to actually take them in?
Again, I think because it's so new, I don't think there's no like kind of course book on it. I think it's just going to be them nerding out, getting that interest there. You can kind of lead a horse to water, but you know, it's up to them to kind of drink it. So I think just introducing them to it, showing them an overview of how it all works, and then hoping that they take a bit of time out to kind of put into it.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't speak about imagery or think about imagery the way you would think. It's not always as natural. It thinks about it like a machine with a lot of information behind it. So there's some really obscure things, but then that's how feeding imagery into it really is beneficial, because you can go, oh right, well that's how it sees that. That's how it sees that. So yeah, I think it's just like anything, it's going to be time and a real interest from that team.
And then allowing maybe to put aside time to actually play around with this stuff.
Yeah. I mean, you could do like coffee mornings where you'll just sit down with some laptops at mid-journey and just have a play with it.
Yeah.
I think that's the way to start, at least.
Cool, good. Thank you to Nathan for an inspiring talker. I hope you all enjoyed it. Thank you very,
Thank you very much, guys.
A pleasure.
Thank you so much.